guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Brian.
Today on the Board Game Rundown, it is really exciting for us. We have Magnus Rex, a civilization building game, and with us, the creator, designer, Brian, is here to walk us through his process, how he made it, how we play it a little bit. This is actually what, like half the map?
This is half the map.
Yeah, so laid out, this is just half of it, but we kind of wanted you to have an idea of what the tiles look like and setup and everything. So before we get into this, how did this even happen, Brian?
So I've always been a big fan of all the Sid Meier's Civilization games, mostly on the PC, going back to the 90s. Got into board gaming about 10 years ago. Got back into it, should say. Played Risk and all those games as a kid. But wanted to, I bought the Sid Meier's 2010 Civilization game. Loved it. Loved some aspects of it. But it wasn't quite epic enough for me. It didn't have quite as big a map as I really wanted for a Civ game. The tech tree was very linear.
Yeah.
And it was really going for some of the aspects of a Civilization game on the computer, and the difference is on the computer you're basically always playing against the computer. So if you get way ahead, great. If you get way behind, you just start the game over.
Sure.
So in a board game version of that, you couldn't actually do like a linear tech tree. Someone gets too far ahead. Where's the fun for the other players?
Right.
And there wasn't, to my remembrance, there wasn't any combat in Sid Meier's where you could actually take someone else's city on the 2010 board game.
That's a bummer.
So
that's part of the fun.
that's part of the
I think
fun.
you could destroy a regular city, but you couldn't take their cap. You could destroy their
That's
capital.
what it was.
Yep.
You couldn't take their capital.
I like taking over the other cities, though, and expanding my influence that way.
And so in this game, I wanted to rectify the tech tree linearity, put some more city combat back into the game, but at the same time, make it a little Euro where you can't get eliminated from the game.
Sure.
Okay.
You're always going to be in this game, even if someone takes one of your cities. And I don't know if we would talk about that later, but that's what I was really going for, was a real epic Civilization game.
For sure.
The classic 4 X's: exploration, exploitation, extermination.
Yes.
And I always forget
I
the
always
fourth
lose
one.
the fourth one. Anyone?
Nope.
Fourth X?
Expand,
Expand.
Expansion.
And exterminate was always the hard one in a board game, because you don't totally want to exterminate.
Right.
Right.
And
Nice.
just from the little bit of playthrough that we did online with you, like, it seems like it would be really hard to exterminate somebody anyways before somebody else could end the game.
Yeah, due to the distance you really start
Right.
from each other on the map, you're really not going to start butting heads with people until
You've got some
mid to
time.
late game. Yeah, you're going to have time, probably at least 10 to 20 turns until you really start having the chance.
Sure.
You'll almost always see that coming.
Sure.
When someone's coming after you.
There's an impending threat on the horizon.
Nice.
Yeah, there's very rare where I could see where it's like, surprise attack!
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much like, oh, well,
Yeah.
if you trust that all these forces next to you aren't going to do anything, well, that's your bad.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually where I designed in the tech tree specifically for that reason. So there's 4 victory types in this game. One of them is obviously conquest. And all of the victory types are really tied back to your tech abilities. Everything is in 4s. There's 4 resource types. There's 4 victory types. And all of those tie back to the tech abilities. Like, for instance, you can't actually conquer you can't conquer your second city until you learn a specific tech. So if your opponent doesn't have that tech, there's no way they can take
you
your
don't have
city.
to worry about
You
it.
don't have to worry about it. It's just
Okay.
when you start to see them learn that, then you need to.
Why are you
start-
studying siege engines? No reason.
They just look nice.
Yeah,
But
those are
and-
pretty.
And then same thing. There's culture victory, where you expand your borders to certain corners, locations, strategic points on the board. But again, you have to learn specific techs before that unlocks the ability to get those locations.
Sure.
So everything is tied back. Learning the techs, which is going to lead to one of those 4 victories. So again, I talked about there's conquest, culture. The third is economic, which is strictly a resource based. It's just amassing a certain number of resources on your scorecard. And then the 4th is your science. So it's kind of resource based too. There's just and that's a very late game victory because you have to amass a certain number of computer resources. So so everything again also is in fours. There's 4 eras. As you progress through the eras, your resources are going to progress. So there's an ancient science resource, and then there's a medieval science resource, an industrial age, and then a modern age resource. So all 4 of the resources types kind of go through that progression.
Okay.
And they all get so the resources get stronger throughout the game. The texts get more powerful, and yeah, that's it. It is very multi-pathed there, where and also you get into it when you see the manner in which people learn text. No one player can learn everything in the game.
Nice.
Okay.
It's structured so that you go through a round of the tech research phase is actually a bidding phase where each player is going to bid science resources, and they get their choice of 4 techs that are up for bid in this round.
Okay.
So obviously the player who gets the highest bid is going to get their choice of a tech, and then so on. The next player will keep bidding, will get their choice. And if a certain minimum bid was made in each round, the fourth or even the third and fourth players don't necessarily even have to place a bid. They're going to get a free tech.
Okay.
They're kind of
So everybody is advancing.
Everyone is advancing at the same pace.
Right.
So no one is going to end up with, at the end of the game, 25 tech cards, and the other guy's going to have 10.
Right.
Sure. You might not specifically get the one you
you
really were
want.
striving towards, but you still advanced.
You're still getting something that's going to help you advance. And even then, you could always use that to your advantage, right? Like, okay, well, this isn't the tech I was excited to get, but this does give me like a different
pathway.
A different pathway
because,
to start.
Yes. Yeah, because like I said, all the tech cards are more or less related to
an
some
end game
victory.
kinda,
to
right.
Some victory. So you may not get the card you wanted, and you have to change your strategy midstream and go for a different victory type
Okay.
based on the cards you're getting that
Right.
game.
Sure.
You can't be too hard nosed about. No, I want to have a military victory. Like, well, you didn't get the military tech. I'm still gonna have a military victory. I don't
You're
care.
losing every fight, Bob.
Yeah, if you do that, then your chances of winning
Yeah, it's pretty slim.
pretty slim.
Yeah.
Have you seen one victory condition more than the others?
Yeah, when we first initially play tested, we had a lot of culture victories, and we've built in some barriers to that to even out the tech. So, in my opinion, I think culture, military, are two of the slightly easier ones.
Okay.
Just because there's barriers to them, but once you get the cards you need, you can go ahead and complete those 2 victories.
Right on.
The 2 other ones, science and economic, are really more time-based because you're amassing a lot of resources on your card.
Sure.
So you're not usually going to get one of those victory types in like the ancient or medieval era.
Sure.
I have seen all 4 victory types though. So yeah.
Right on.
Has anybody ever won it not being in the final era, or do you have to make it to the final era?
I
before
know
you can win?
we've had victories in. Usually a victory starts showing up in the industrial era, which is the 3rd out of the 4.
Okay.
Once you get to the modern era. The modern era only has 6 or 7 techs in it, so you're going to have a max of 6 or 7 turns within
That era.
the modern era.
Okay.
And usually by the end of that,
It's just wrapping everything up.
something
kinda.
is wrapping up. The
Yeah.
techs in that era are purposefully overpowered
to push to
to
the end of the game.
push
Yeah.
an end of the
Nice.
game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can
Nice.
respect that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I can respect that
Right,
a
it
lot.
keeps it from dragging out. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So how long? How long did it take you to come up with this? Because this sounds really well thought out.
Yeah, it went through a lot of iterations. Like I said, started really the raw idea of it in probably 2017, 16, 17. Worked on it for about a year, just with homemade stuff around the house.
Sure.
Old game boards, miniatures.
Right.
You know, there was a version of this where I used miniatures.
Sure.
In 2018, I learned about the Game Crafter, and I learned you can actually publish your own board game. So that's where I started to get the idea. Hey, I could make this a little more professional looking, even if I'm the only one that will ever play it.
Sure.
And from there, we got a core group of playtesters, 4 or 5 guys down in Plymouth, and we just play tested the heck out of it for about a year and a half. Actually, this year, early in the spring, put some very finishing touches onto some of the mechanics based on some more online playtesting that we did.
Right on. Right on. Now, had you ever gotten to a point? I'm always curious with this because Dan and I we pretend like we know how to make a game and we're working on stuff. And Dan's had a lot of amazing ideas, and I've just kind of been like chipping in like here and there. But have you ever gotten a point in development where it's like this is not working at all and you had to scrap the whole thing and restart over, or have you been able to pretty much just go?
No, absolutely.
Oh,
I've
okay.
had to start over because, again, when I first started working on this with the GameCraft, even in 2018, at one point I did have a linear tech tree.
Okay.
So it was literally a mat that was players would record their techs that they had won, so all 4 players could learn the same tech.
Okay,
Right.
sure.
So it was all linear. It was all a literal tree, pyramid, inverted pyramid. And we scrapped that early on because it became just way too much,
Oh,
too
sure.
much analysis for all the players. For all the players to do, and just way too many components. Way too much housework to record who had which
sure.
techs.
Really fiddly after a
And
little
for
while. Right?
exactly, and for all the players, because again, if I have this tech, I need to know do the other players have it. So it just became way too much information for the players
Sure.
to pull in. Gosh, what else? I mean, like I said, we've tweaked a lot of the victory conditions over time. The last, I think one of the big breakthroughs with Magnus Rex was again last summer when I developed the current tech bidding system, and I actually stole a mechanic from one of my favorite Euro games, which is Power Grid. If you guys,
I have not played
Yeah.
Power Grid. That is a huge gap in my gaming.
I
I've got it at home.
but I know, like,
I haven't played it in several years.
yeah,
but
it's been a while since I
I
played it.
love it.
I
Yeah.
know it's
Yeah.
amazing, right? Like everybody.
It's been around a
like,
while.
It's,
Yeah,
it's great.
like
It's
one of
an
those staple
evergreen
kind of
Yeah,
games.
staple kind
Exactly.
of game.
It's
yeah.
one of the first Euro games that I played.
Mhm.
Sure.
8 or 10 years ago, and it has a bidding phase, and I really like the way it was done. I mean, I changed a lot of the bidding here, but I really wanted something where you get that player interaction,
Right.
and also to balance out, people's progression through the ages. No one is
Sure.
going to get way ahead in science.
Not gonna drop missiles on archers.
Right.
It is kind of fun
It
though in
is-
the computer.
it is
when
kind
you
of
do
fun,
that.
yeah.
in the old Civ games, you could,
Yeah.
the prototypical spearman beats a tank.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens.
Yeah.
And there can be scenarios in this where you get that too.
Okay.
So because it is kind of cool to see a spearman fight a tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Just jams his spear in the treads and the
For
tank can't go
Poland.
anymore.
Yeah. And yeah, the combat is all dice based. I know some people aren't a big fan of that,
Mhm.
but that was the other thing I didn't like about Sid Meier's the 2010
cards.
The cards. It was kind of, to me, it wasn't
Yeah,
intuitive.
I didn't care for it.
Yeah. So a lot of people didn't. So I did make it dice based, and I actually got some good input this spring on my combat system at the Proto Spiel in South
Oh,
Bend.
right
Nice.
on.
I forget the guy's name that I worked
big
with.
fan of this idea, the one that you told us about.
Yeah. So the combat is dice based, but if you lose a dice roll and your unit dies, you get an extra die the next time you fight a battle.
Okay. Like you learn something.
Yeah, you learn
it's
something.
so
Yep.
thematic to me. Yeah,
Yep.
just like, okay, we lost this battle, but now we know they flank from the left, right? So we'll be
Right.
better at combating them.
Now,
next time. I love
question:
that.
could I be the idiot civilization that doesn't learn? Not that this is the one, but that doesn't learn from anything, and I never
Does
get
not
that
learn from
information?
special combat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We're really stubborn.
Yeah, some of
We'll
our
just keep doing
civs-
it our
Some
way.
of our factions do have some malice.
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
Like they give a really nice bonus, but they also have a malice to balance that
okay.
out.
Okay.
France is one of them. But
Oh, right on.
But the base game comes with 4 factions.
Okay.
I've actually already developed an expansion to this
Oh wow.
that gives 14 more expansions.
Wow.
He says expansion, but it's like 14 more civs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically all the
so
leftover
awesome.
design
Yeah.
features from the base game that I thought I can't
Right.
feasibly sell.
Mhm.
Right.
Um,
Right.
So I was like, well, I'll just make it an expansion, and included with that are some. I don't call them wonders, but they're basically your wonder builders.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I always like that part of Civ too.
Sure,
Like,
yeah, me
that's,
too.
That's always a fun thing. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, my city's got somehow has
I
like
built the
the hanging
lighthouse and
gardens
the Colossus
and the Colossus.
yeah, the pyramids and the.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we were just only the greatest civilization ever.
One quick question I have before
Sure.
we start flipping tiles.
Yeah.
So you said this is half the board. I'm assuming there's another half up top here. If you play with a smaller player count, do you always use the same size board?
You the official rules
Uh-huh.
say to only lay out the number of tiles for a number of players. So what we have out here is a two-player game.
Okay.
Each player starts with 16 tiles.
Okay.
These are 4 starting tiles.
Okay.
They're just used just to really align the board.
Okay.
But there's really nothing if you want to play with all
2 people.
64
Yeah,
tiles.
just use the whole thing, explore
I've
it all.
done it both ways. I
Nice.
played it both ways. The official rules do say to set it out like this for a 2-player game.
Okay.
The map combination is so incredible to me because so there's 4 ones, or
Mhm.
well, not ones in that case, I
Yeah,
guess, but there are 4
yeah.
2s that are just randomly placed in the map, and then there are 4 3s that are randomly placed. So the map will just always be so different and randomly
It
generated.
will never, ever,
It's
ever.
It's
be
going to
the
be
incredible.
same.
really hard to have it the
I've
same
done
way.
the math. I actually emailed a math teacher.
Oh, really?
Said, "Am I doing this math right?" There's over 1 billion possible map configurations.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that system, and it just looks beautiful.
Yeah, it
this,
does
this,
look really nice.
This ancient map depiction of the
Mhm.
4
And
maps
I mean,
here. I
and
love
it's
it.
really fun when you start to flip it over.
Explore tiles.
And we can kind of get into that a little bit now, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, let's flip some tiles.
so the
So,
stars,
this-
the
yeah.
star in the back of the tile, that means it's somebody's starting
Starting
location.
capsule.
Yeah,
correct?
all the players start on their 6th tile, which has a star on it. When you flip the tile over, then you start to see that on each tile there's 6 full hexes and some half hexes.
Mhm.
And then what we'll do, each player will put a city token on their starred hex, and 6 control cubes or border cubes around the 6 hexes around your city. And depending on where your hex is, like on Tim's board,
Mhm.
it may a couple of your hexes may actually be concealed, maybe off the board. So he would put one there. So
Okay.
it's always the 6 around. So at game start, everyone's board is going to basically look like this. And to Dan's point earlier, I'll just kind of say, all the tiles are modular and interchangeable, as long as you're talking numbers. So a 13 tile would fit in the same location here.
Right.
All the adjoining hexes are all designed so that they'll fit
Adjacently. Yeah.
adjacently. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why there's all those combinations. The only cards that are not interchangeable are these 4 middle hexes, which are shaded a little red. So that's how you know to build your 4 quadrants. So
Right.
this player's
And-
quadrant is going to build off this direction.
And it's
mine's this way.
so simple, right? It's 1 through 4, 5 through 8.
Yeah.
It's just boom, boom, boom. And it took me where you're telling, I was trying to help you set it up and everything, and it took me a second to figure it out. But once I saw it all laid out, it's like, oh yeah, duh.
It's
Yeah.
very,
Like
it's all just numbered.
Yeah.
You put it out there. These are some really high quality
Cards.
cardboard
Yeah.
that they do stick together really well and
Mhm.
flow. And like I said, and there's terrain differences in each map. So your strategy, going back to what victory you want to go for, it
Mhm.
even really ties back
To where you
to
start.
Where you're at
you're
on the map.
starting, where you're at,
Yeah.
how easy is it
What's
to get
available
to
to
other
you.
players. Yeah, your resources, which again
Mhm.
is big in all the Civ games on the
Okay,
computer.
yeah.
You're always looking for this resource or that one.
Yep.
All of these starting locations, your city tile itself is going to have resources on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I believe every tile or every city is going to have 2 resources around your city,
Okay.
just by default.
See, I've got
Are the
fish,
base? Yep.
and,
Fish and
writing.
Are,
right there.
and then the base cities are all the same. These guys.
Yeah. These
Okay.
are all the same. The only, I guess, difference you might say, one of the technologies allows players to build city walls,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know if they can see that, but that would be a city wall tile, and that gives you an extra resource.
Oh, okay.
So
once
once you
you get
it
it flipped.
Once you get it flipped, you get an
Yep.
extra resource
Oh,
on
yeah.
there.
Okay.
3 versus
Yep.
4
Yep.
on there. Perfect.
Yeah. The 3 basically, each city starts with a poem, which is your culture
Mm-hmm.
resource. It starts with a scroll, which is your science, and it starts with a bronze, which is your strategic for building military.
Okay.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
So then, I guess walk us through a turn summary. Let me just say in advance, thank you for having player aids.
Yes. Yes. I was looking
Yeah.
at some of these player aids. These are pretty nice.
These are available to. Well, I mean, even the player board, that's part of the regular game.
Sure,
walks
breaks
you
down
through
the
stuff.
turn.
Turn
Yeah,
summary
it walks
and
you
everything
through
else.
the turn summary,
Yep.
the victory conditions, and some of the Magnus achievements, which we haven't talked about. But
Sure.
yeah.
And then as we get into later on, if we're talking about
Different texts.
things that you would get in addition, on the Game Crafter site or print and play, reach
Yeah.
out to you. These are available.
Yes, all of the game aids that Bob's looking at here,
Mhm.
these are available on the Game Crafter as print and play components. So if you would order the game, you wouldn't get them pre-printed, but you could print them out yourself, and that was done purely to save cost
Yeah.
for
Sure.
the customer. I've obviously had these pre-printed for today. But
Mhm.
we have like
Oops,
a
oops.
tech aid,
Resource aid.
yeah, a resource aid, just telling you these are the resources and how they upgrade, and then one for trade missions, kind of walking a player through how they complete a trade mission, and then lastly, the last aid we have is a cultural victory aid, just telling you how do you complete that victory. Because those teams, the cultural victory and the trade missions, seem to be the two topics that the beginning players, especially trade missions, have the hardest time grasping their hands around. So that's why we did player aids for those two.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That is great. So, yeah, walk us through a turn then.
Okay,
Just-
so somewhere we have a harvest die. It's right
There
here
we
on the
go.
table. So this is just a custom D6 with icons that correspond to the 5 main resource types. Then there's a 6th side, which is just 2x. So if this is rolled, each player will get to harvest whatever resources on their map they would like times 2. Quantity
okay.
times 2. So basically you roll it. I got
Oh,
it
2x.
times 2.
Boom.
So I would look at my starting city area, and I have a
So you could be like 1, 2.
science, a bronze, a poem. I have a wheat on the outskirts and another bronze on the outskirts. So if I wanted to go heavy with bronze, I would harvest 4. So then I would just increase my scorecard. Every player starts with a poem, a scroll, and
Oh, there it
a
is.
bronze. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest the bronze and move that from 1 to 5 since it was a 2x roll. So that's basically how the harvest phase works for all players. Is interesting there that we rolled a 2x. As a home rule, house rule, we typically say the first roll of the game is always assumed to be 2x.
Oh,
Sure.
okay.
Just to give
Just a boost of resources.
give a boost, at the start of the game.
So if you were harvesting bronze, then you would harvest all the bronze available to you.
All the bronze within your cities
City
and
limits.
Influence.
your influence, yeah.
So
Okay.
you're only, so let's just say we had rolled that. You're only going to generate that.
Correct.
Correct,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
So yeah, exactly. If we rolled a straight up strategic, then you would only get that one.
Now,
bronze.
if you have more
Strategic
Strategic
somewhere
somewhere else,
you would
you
get
you
those.
could also harvest that too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if within your
within your
area
area
of
of
your
control
area.
or influence.
there's a few event cards that allow you to harvest everything that's you can physically see on your that's
Nice,
visible but
yeah.
may not even be within your borders.
Right.
That's one event that comes up. There's also some specific technologies that affect the harvest, like in the medieval era. There's a merchant class tech that allows the player. So the harvest die will pass. So I will roll it, then Dan will roll it, then Bob will roll it. If Dan had the merchant class tech, he would get to roll the dice twice and choose which of the 2 he wanted.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a lot of other harvest related abilities. Later on
Okay.
to get into the game you
Yeah.
can do. So again, that was harvest.
Right.
Mhm.
The next phase is focus actions. So on your focus faction card, every player starts with 4 actions they can do. 3 of them are in common to all the players, and then the 4th at the right is a unique faction action.
Nice.
Everyone starts with tribalism, nomads, and bartering. And I'm playing as France today, so I get the Salon Academy.
That's what I played as.
Yeah, that's who you played as. I think.
It was a good one.
Yeah, France is a nice civ or faction. Tim's
got
here is playing
Germany.
as Germany. He gets blood and iron. I believe that when he learns any military tech card, he gets 3 free units of that specific
Nice.
Boom.
card.
Yeah. Okay.
And then also he has an ancillary unit there or ability he can trade an anvil for a book or a manuscript, which is another medieval science
Oh, okay.
resource. So I personally like Germany because you're not going to really probably have to build a lot of units if you're hitting those techs that
Because you can
need.
focus on
Right.
other things
Exactly.
because your resources aren't going to building those units.
And we typically, as a house rule, on their any resource ability where it says trade this for this, we usually let players to play it in reverse too. So you could trade a book for an
Or vice versa.
or vice versa, either
Sure.
direction. We
Right.
would make it either direction.
Sure.
So that's the focus phase. And so most players, their first focus phase will do bartering. And you can do any and all of these during your turn as many times as you want. If you want to build 6 spearmen in one turn, you can,
Okay.
as long as you have the resources. Resources are going to
Sure.
be your constraint most of the time.
Okay.
You can't like roll the bartering die 6 times. That would only be a one-time use. But so, for instance, we haven't talked about the difference between renewable and harvested resources. So a resource that's on the map
Mm-hmm.
is a renewable resource. What's on your scorecard is harvested.
Okay.
With the bartering ability, you just roll a d6. If you would roll a 6, say I did, I can take something off my scorecard by 1, and I say I want to make one of these bronze renewable. Can you
Oh,
find
yeah.
it?
Now I remember
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah, can you find me another bronze?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I'm just going to take this one and place it somewhere on my map. And now the next time strategic gets rolled, I can also harvest that one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I like you're able to seed
And-
the board with
Yeah.
Right.
resources.
One
to,
of the huge things I was going for with this game is everything is on the map.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice there's no victory point trackers.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing hidden from the player other than what their strategy is going to be, but everything is visible here.
Okay.
You can tell how close someone is to a victory by what's on the map. I really wanted to force players to play the map,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and by making the map modular like that, one strategy is not going to work this time or another time, based on your location.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So try to handcuff players, keep players from one strategy always working. Same
Sure.
thing with the tech systems.
Right.
I wanted to interject really quick. I have the worst memory in the world. Maybe we already said this, but it also says right here what each
we
person's
didn't-
starting
yes,
resources
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
and
We
stuff
didn't-
are.
We didn't talk about that because we didn't either when we played online. So, in addition to your unique faction action,
Mm-hmm.
some of the factions will start with extra resources. I think Germany
Okay.
actually starts with an iron in addition to
Oh,
those 3.
sure. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
France would start with a special, basically a great general.
Okay. A
In-
Napoleon.
that was that
I
was the
mean,
inspiration.
Makes
What?
sense.
all the great people in the game are called Magnuses.
Okay.
So that I would earn a random Magnus Imperator.
Okay.
So again, that is something that we always have to watch out for when we're playing it, is that we make sure that we start with our correct starting bonuses, because some
Right.
of them really do help.
Okay.
But yeah, that's on the faction card. They're right under the name of the faction itself, all your starting bonuses. So again, that's the focus phase. I'll just hit on some of the big ones that a lot of pit players will use. Nomads, you can pay 2 poems and add another control cube, or sometimes they're called flag cubes, and just grow your borders that way.
Okay.
So that's a pretty key one. Tribalism is where you basically build all of your starting units. Every player actually starts with, and I didn't place it out there, a civis, which is your settler unit,
Okay.
and a spearman, which I don't have any out, but
That's all right.
yeah, that's fine. So those are your really basic units.
Mm-hmm.
And then your fourth ability is your faction specific one. I'll just read out the one for Salon. I can build a Salon Academy building with 1 scroll or poem, and that is a dual building, so it goes on the board. Basically, just place it on a hex around your city. When science is rolled, you harvest 2 scrolls for that. So you build it with 1, and you can harvest 2.
Nice.
You can also, with culture is rolled, you build it with 1, you can harvest 2. So that's a really powerful starting building.
Mhm.
As a malice to that, if France is to build one of those, they get a sadness icon on the map,
Oh.
which sadness is on the reverse of any red strategic resource,
Mm.
and you would just place that on a resource within your borders, and that covers it up, and then I can't harvest that until I remove it.
Okay.
They're on strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
How do
players are a little unhappy because you've done something to.
How do you increase your happiness?
So
Flogging.
Yes, right. It'll continue until the morale
The
increases.
flogging will continue until morale increases. So on the back of an economic resource, which are the ones with yellow borders, is a happy face.
Okay.
So one of the uses for economic resources are canceling. One of the uses, not the only use, but one of them is to cancel out a sadness. I would just play this during any phase of the game. So I'm going to cancel out my sadness, and I would burn this. It'd be on my scorecard. I would remove it from my card, and then just remove the sadness.
Okay.
So that's one. So that's again France's special ability. I think we already talked about Germany's
Yeah.
special ability,
Mhm.
Blood and Iron. So that's the faction phase. The next phase is your movement. And movement is where you act literally. Well, you move across the board.
I enjoy how movement works in your game.
Yeah, it's pretty intuitive, I think. But there is the exploration phase. This is where you get the exploration in the game.
Okay.
So each unit can either, on their turn, they can either literally move several hexes, and I believe the starting movement for a Civis, which Tim's holding up, is 3 hexes. So he can either move 3 hexes, or he can use his movement to flip another card. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this card and reveal it. So now I see what's on that card. I can kind of decide, do I want to move in there? Am I just trying to explore as many as I can? And since you usually start with 2 units, you start with the Spearman and start with a Civis. Germany actually starts with, I think, 3 Spearmen.
Yeah.
Let's start with more people. I know
Yeah,
that.
so that's
Right.
another nice bonus for them.
Recognize.
Yeah, so they can very early reveal. So let's just flip one more tile. 'Cause we normally would at least have 2 tiles flipped. Most players will, I shouldn't say always, but generally will flip 2 tiles. Or maybe flip a tile and then with their other unit move into that tile.
I found that I was doing that, using a unit to flip
Yeah,
tiles
that's
and then
another
deciding
way to
with
go.
other units. Like, okay, now I'm going to go in and
And these, when you flip them over, it's always like this motion. Or can you? You can't rotate.
You
that.
can't rotate it.
It's
There's only one
correct way.
directionality.
I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And you'll see which
and the
ones-
houses. I mean, they're a pretty good indicator,
Right. Of
right?
which way it should
or
be up.
the
the icon.
it looks like the resource icon is always on the bottom.
Yeah, the
center,
resource
right?
icon is always on
or
the
the
bottom.
trees
So-
grow up.
Trees grow up.
It's a big indicator.
You learn something new every day, man.
Yeah, I haven't done the anti-gravity expansion.
Right. Okay. It's coming though.
So that's movement. Just talk about some of the things in movement that can happen. When you flip over a card or a tile, you could see an event on one of your tiles.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That little brown
Circle
icon
there.
right there, really small. But when that comes up, you'll take a
We're in modern now, but
yeah, that's fine. But you'll take an event token, and it helps just to keep these handy. Is just place one there. So that means that there's an event token there to be claimed. If on a later turn I move to there, I remove it from the board. That event's now been claimed, and I'm going to draw an event card. This one is actually a spy, so I earned a spy. A lot of them will be unique events, like I mentioned earlier. Players might get to harvest everything that they can see that's been revealed, even if it's not within their borders. Some other ones there's a special trade mission that they get to do immediately, just kind of get players used to doing trades. All kinds. There's really, to my knowledge, there's only one negative event that you might flip over.
Okay.
Most of them are going to be gray area events. You could work it to your advantage. And there's some that's going to be just outright positive events for you.
Okay.
Some of those are going to be also player interaction events, like you might ask everyone to take a vote for something in the game, and it's going to have some impact later on.
Okay.
So those are events.
quick question
Sure.
for event is any unit can activate it, right?
Any unit can activate an
Okay,
event.
there's no
Okay. It's
ranking
not your
there.
Not like
military.
Scythe or whatever, where it's only your character. can
Oh,
do
yeah.
that.
Yep. So those are events. There's
Okay.
also, and I don't see any out here yet, there's also some barbarians.
That was one of my questions. I think.
Yep, there are
Oh, they're
barbarians.
coming. They're somewhere. I'll just.
It'll be like a big castle.
There they are.
Yeah.
No, that's
yeah,
not it. Is that it?
That is one. Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So this is a barbarian tile. Most of them will look like castles or towns.
Some sophisticated barbarians.
Yeah, well, it's a D20.
Wow.
That
there-
is a very
so
sophisticated-
there'll be a number on the tile saying, actually, I wrote it backwards. It says 6D instead of D6.
Oh,
Oh.
that's all right.
But that was 3 years ago when I did the artwork. So D20 is a modern barbarian. If you
Mhm.
attack him, he'll defend with a D20.
Okay.
If you beat any barbarian, so there's also barbarian tiles or tokens, just like the event tokens.
Okay.
On the reverse, they look just like your resource tokens.
Okay.
If you beat one, you'll just take it off the board, and usually it's always a resource or 4 of any resource. So maybe there's one. Perfect. So if I were to beat that barbarian, I'd flip it over, and it's 4 spies.
Ooh.
So
Nice.
we haven't talked about spies, but yeah, you would keep track of them on your board. Just
Okay.
like that.
And then as you use them, you just.
Yeah,
Mark them
yeah,
down.
yeah. So and there's also some that are just ones, but yeah, that's yep.
So if I'm fighting, and let's say that I failed in a previous attempt, and I get to roll 2 die.
Gladly say that you failed.
Yeah. will happen often. And you roll, do you total it, or is it just your highest die?
It is the total of the die. So, and that's another player design change that we made about a year ago. It was just the highest of the die.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to give players more impetus to try and attack some of those higher barbarians and higher value units. So we just threw in there. We put the if you lose a battle, you get an extra die. There's lots of other ways to get extra die beyond just the losing mechanism. So it's completely conceivable that a D6 barbarian, if they get enough die stored up, can take out a D20.
Right.
Nice.
Overwhelming numbers. Right.
Yep. All about numbers. So yeah, because I've not been a big D&D-er, in my time, but that's one mechanism I picked up from D&D because they usually do the total of the die.
Yeah.
So those are barbarians. Again, there's a barbarian for each era. So there's D6 barbarians. It'll just be an ancient one. They'll usually give ancient resources. Medieval will give medieval, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The 4 levels are D6, D10, D12, D20.
Okay.
So that's movement. We'll talk about So on some of the tiles, you'll see a little red star with a number and a kind of a grayed out resource icon. What these indicate are your 4 corners of the world. And these are those specific locations. If you're doing a culture victory, you want to have to grow your borders all the way contiguously. So you can't skip. When you do border growth, you have to grow, adjacently. And this would be a stretch one because you'd have to grow quite a bit just to reach it. And then once you get to that point, in order to purchase that last starred hex, you have to pay 5 poems. So it costs more, and you also have to have the correct tech card
that allows for that victory.
To purchase that.
Okay.
And I remember when we played this, Tim asked this. I'll just go ahead and flip these.
Yeah, go for it.
The 4 corners of the world, they're not literally on the corners of the map. They are some random ones that are in the corners, such as down here in the lower right hand. But there's always going to be 4 corners of the world right here in the middle of the map.
Okay.
And it's still potentially far away.
Potentially.
No, I've got some good luck with this one because it's right there.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
for where
and
I'm
these,
located.
because they are, for the most part, closer to the players, they cost twice as much as the corner ones.
Right. And plus they're closer to other people's territory, so they can be contested ground.
They are, yes. When we first started playtesting, we had a lot of games where it was just fought out here in this middle portion, going back and forth with culture.
Okay.
And again, that's why we wanted to tone down, make it a little harder to earn that culture victory. And that's why I started putting some random ones literally in the corners of the map. They're not in every corner tile.
So it's not guaranteed.
Yeah,
that
there's not
there will be one.
There is
one there.
But if I look at my corner tiles,
Oh,
we must have counted all the corner
we
tiles.
got the one.
Yeah, we did. So you could literally play. Now those ones did not, because luck of the draw. This tile. This is exactly what we're talking about. This tile would fit here, and it just so happened that it ended up here. So you could have had 2 red stars basically adjacent to each other as far as your tiles. So that's what the map starts to look like when you start to reveal it. And I think that's actually this one's upside down.
And the movement phase is all simultaneous.
Yes. So all of the at this point in the game, there's not a lot of interaction. So everything at this point in the game is simultaneous.
Okay.
We can all take our focus actions at the same time. We can all do our movement at the same time. So the first couple turns are going to fly along.
And there's not a lot. Yeah, we've talked about other games where you have a lot of downtime between turns, and AP can kind of screw you up.
Yeah.
But this, at least early on, and we didn't play like a full game, but you could see how the turns could go relatively quick. There'll be a few times where it might slow down a little bit, but I don't think it ever grinds to a halt.
No, it really doesn't, because for 90% of the game, people are doing all their actions at the same time. And some turns, you may not have a lot of focus actions you can take. So you might go straight from harvest to movement. The only time that order of play comes into effect is when I'm attacking Bob, and I'm the one who's attacking. He's going to be defending. I'm going to attack him first. So he's not going to have a chance to attack me.
Right.
That's where whoever rolled the harvest die, if order of phase play if it becomes important,
Right.
whoever has the die will go
First
first.
player,
First player.
basically.
And then just clockwise. Yeah, they'll be first player, and then when this turn is over, I'll pass the die clockwise. It's now Tim's turn to do everything first during his phase.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of it is.
Yeah. I had played a little Scythe, played a little again the the Sid Meier's board game from 2010. Brought some of that into it, but a lot of this is just. Other than that, there's a lot of. I've not had a lot of experience in some of the real classic, civilization building board games. I've never played Tapestry.
Okay.
I've never played Rise of New Dawn. So
Okay.
I don't know how much this feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I was a little free to just go out,
Yeah.
just do it intuitively.
This expanding your territory, a New Dawn's got a similar.
Yeah, I
thing to
did
that.
look at it
Mhm.
a little bit. I do like how the map looks really nice.
The
in
map is
Rise of
very
New
nice,
Dawn.
yes.
Yeah, I like the map there. So again, that's the movement phase. After movement, everyone will move into the research phase, which is the last phase in a turn.
Okay.
And research is all contested on the research tile tracker or research mat. I'll just hold that up real quick. So on the tech mat, there'll be a place for tech cards up for bid. It's 4 spaces. These are from Magnus's. We'll talk about those later. But what we'll do is we'll take 4 ancient events just right off the top of the deck and place them in the 4 spots. And then we'll move into a bidding phase or a bidding mechanism for those 4 techs. So since I actually rolled first, I would get my first bid. So I'm going to bid first. And to ease this example along, let's move our science up to, I'll get 3 and you can go
This one?
4. No, actually.
That's the scroll, right?
this one,
I
the
have
scroll.
no science.
Yeah, put it on 4.
All right.
Typical.
Yeah.
So
We'll move
Actually,
this
if you played a
science
Civ game with me, you would know that science is one of the things I go for almost all the time.
I love I love the science victory in Civ
yeah,
games.
and see, this game is science, because science is really going to control which factions you or which abilities you get, even if you're not going for a science victory. Science is always important for that reason. So I rolled first, so I'm going to say, and I would, I obviously want to look at the cards
See what
available.
they
I can
got.
see it from here. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to
Iconography.
Yeah.
and I'm going to go with. I'll go with City State. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I don't say what I'm going to bid on. I'm just going to say I'm going to bid 2.
Oh, okay.
So you just
basically,
say,
do I think you're going to go for the one that I want? Do I want to
yeah.
outbid
So,
you?
so the player, I made a
Yeah.
classic starter mistake there.
Yeah.
I'm not
Rookie
saying.
move.
Yeah.
Next
so
we'll
I'm
be
just
starting a land war in Asia.
That's right.
I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to bid 2. So now it'd be Tim's
Okay.
turn to bid.
Yeah. How much are we bidding, Bob? I'll bid 3. Why not?
Sure, you got it.
Okay, so since it's just 2-player game,
Yeah, sure.
we've completed the bidding. So Tim would get
Now
his
you could
choice.
keep going if you wanted.
No, it's only
That's
one.
it.
It's just one. Just
Oh,
goes through once.
okay. So
You
if I
just-
bid 2 and you come back with 3, I can't be like, well, then 4.
Right,
Right.
right. So
it's
if you really want it, you better
You
come
get-
out strong.
come out
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
really important. That's why really it's an advantage in this phase to go last.
It'll last, yeah, because you could just barely outbid
You can
somebody.
just
or
barely outbid. As a matter of fact, one of the medieval techs is education.
Mhm.
If you have that tech, you automatically bid last every
Oh
time.
wow,
awesome.
nice.
Yeah. If you get a tie bid, you can have ties.
Okay.
You just roll a d6 or whatever die you really
I
want.
say so. If you bid 3, I can say, well, I bid 3 too.
Yeah. Then we just roll off.
Okay.
We just roll off.
Okay.
The really nice thing, we talked about this really early today,
Mm-hmm.
is there's every tech bidding phase has a minimum bid. And it's printed right on the tech cards in the upper right hand corner where it says 2x of something. So in this in this era, the minimum bid is 2 scrolls. So in order
Okay.
to unlock bidding,
Mm-hmm.
at least one player has to bid 2.
Okay.
It's not to say that you can't bid 1. You certainly could, but if no one bids at least 2, then no research will actually happen on this turn.
Okay.
So if you bid 1 and no one else bids any, then you don't lose your science. You just the
Don't
bid
get-
was basically canceled. You move
Okay.
on to the next turn. If one player did bid 2, and I decided not, this is where again the order of the bidding comes in. If in this example, if I bid 2 and Tim really didn't care
What he gets.
what he gets, he'll just bid 0
Mm-hmm.
and get a free tack.
Okay.
Because as long as
Somebody is
As
advancing.
long as
It
somebody
does
is
go in
advancing.
order though, right? So if I had bid 1 and then 0 and then 2,
Yes,
I would go
within
second.
within the structure of the bids, it's always the order of the highest bid,
Highest
to
bid,
lowest.
lowest bid. Okay.
somebody hits minimum, everybody's getting
Everybody's
something.
getting something.
Okay.
It's either all or
Which I'm
nothing.
sure comes a little more important when they're like 5 and 6, right? Because somebody's like, well, I'm going to bid 3 in the hopes that somebody will bid 5 and get one,
Absolutely.
and that way I
Right.
can pick second to get a tech.
Yeah. A lot of times you're, at least the way my thinking is,
Mhm.
I'm either trying to get my choice
Mhm.
or I'm not going to bid at all.
Exactly.
Right.
Why even go the middle
Why spend
ground?
this? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's just me though.
Yeah.
Because if you bid, it's spent, whether you win or not.
Yeah, rather if you that's very key. If the minimum bid was met, then all players will burn whatever bids they made.
Right.
So they'll
Okay.
decrease
Right.
their science on their scorecard by that number.
So if you're not first, you're last. Well,
Yeah.
kind of.
So that's basically science. After the research is done and everyone's
Mhm.
decided what they want, they'll go ahead and just take the cards. And we haven't talked about this too, but
I love it.
in a less than 4-player game,
Mhm.
whatever unbid texts, whatever unchosen texts
Mhm.
were not chosen, they're discarded and they're gone from the game.
Okay.
So we do that to speed the game along. So we have a question.
Yes. No, if the minimum is not met, you do not lose
Correct.
because nobody
Nobody-
got anything.
So nothing was
one-
spent.
If anybody gets a tech, your bid is gone.
Yep.
Is spent.
if
right?
no one, yes, exactly.
If
Well put.
anyone gets a tech, your bid amount is spent.
Yep.
If no one gets a tech, then nothing is spent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If
Yeah.
there's no minimum bid met, no one loses anything. We just
Okay.
go on to the next turn.
And then
Okay.
now you are showing that you're going to cover up.
So yes, at that point, after you collect your tax,
Mm-hmm.
you'll decide and it says right on the turn summary, on the research phase, may also reorder your focus row.
So you could decide, hey, I'm not going to do nomads for a little bit, so I'm going to cover it with code of laws. Now later on,
Yeah.
during
want that back.
your research phase, you could shift over.
Yeah, you can shift it.
Okay.
And you can even
You can go
shift
back.
it off your board.
You can
yeah.
shift it off entirely. There's
Okay.
no
And once it's off your board, you can't use it while it's off your board.
yeah,
Correct.
you can't use it
Okay.
while it's off your board.
If you're basically setting up your tableau of actions that you're
Right.
going to be able to
Have available
do.
to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can adjust that once per research
Research
phase.
phase.
Yep.
Okay.
So one of the factions we're not playing with actually in the base game is Rome
Mhm.
today. Rome as one of their powers, they get 5
extra
in their
space.
focus row.
Okay.
So they get an extra space.
Nice.
Incredible.
So that's a real flexible, easy.
What
to
have the
learn.
Romans ever done for
Yeah.
us?
Like everything.
aqueducts.
Yeah,
Everything.
everything. So many things.
So that's the end of that is the end of a turn.
Okay.
Any other questions, you guys?
Man, you pretty much nailed all my questions already. The tech
Yeah, he
tree,
brought
the
a booklet.
airbase. Yeah.
I love it.
Bob was excited about
was.
this. We built it up a little bit. No pressure.
I was going to ask about the government types, but I do see like on some of the tech cards and whatnot, you have different types of like democracy and feudalism and things like that, and they will give you different bonuses.
There's no government per se.
Right.
The governments are kind of rolled into the tech tree
Right.
to the tech system.
Mm-hmm.
And I know democracy is a really interesting one.
I like
In the
democracy.
medieval one,
I love
whoever holds the
democracy.
harvest die gets to suggest a resource type.
Ooh.
Say, I really want science, so I'm going to suggest science. We'll put it up to a vote. If everyone votes for it, that's what. Or not
We
say
all-
everyone. If at least a majority, at least 50%. Doesn't
Okay.
have to be a break.
Right.
So in a 2-player game, if you're the democracy, you
that
could say,
I vote for
want
this.
this one.
I win.
Very, very op. Democracy in a 2-player game, very op. Almost too much. We've debated rather that needs to be a house rule.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Change
okay.
it
Or
because
just change it to dictatorship.
yeah. So that's what
Yeah.
I've
It's a
struggled with.
democracy when it's convenient for me.
Yeah.
Is there authoritarian on here? I'm like, no, we're all getting iron this time, and you guys can deal with it.
Love it. Quick question back on the move thing, real quick.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost 1 movement point to flip. You either spend your whole movement to flip.
Yes.
I didn't know if you got
Oh.
that before or not.
Okay.
So, like, if I use this guy to flip this,
Uh-huh.
that's all of this guy's movement. Now, here's the fun thing, though, right? Is he's got 3 move. So you could go 1, 2, and then decide to flip this with that last move, correct?
No.
Oh, you have
no.
to use your whole
No,
movement?
Once your player is committed to moving,
You're moving.
You're
He's moving, and
Okay,
you
so you
can't
either
flip.
move or flip.
Okay.
One or
you
the
either-
other.
Yeah,
Cool.
Very explicit in the rule
Oh,
book. It
you
says,
should explain what all the houses are. Sorry. You can finish
great.
that sentence.
Oh,
but
real
I,
quick,
it
just
just
real-
popped into my head.
Yeah, I say real quick on the movement. Do you have to be like adjacent to the border to flip it, or is
No.
it just any like
Very
adjacent
good
tile?
question. It's addressed in the rules, but if a player is anywhere on a tile, even on a half tile like this,
Mm-hmm.
he can flip the upper, lower, left, or right card. You
Any adjacent tile.
don't- any
is-
adjacent tile card, not adjacent hex. So
Yeah.
I'm
that's-
standing here.
forgot
I
about
can
that.
flip this card,
Orthogonally.
orthogonally.
Okay.
That's, yes.
Okay.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't have to be,
All the way up to
stickler.
the edge and
You
then
don't-
wait. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, because you'd waste a whole turn just moving.
Right. So before you decided on the Game Crafter, did you look at other publishers?
No, for two reasons. One is cost. I
Yeah.
mean to go find a publisher to print
They would undertake
a
something
1,000
like this
copies.
on a first
huge risk.
first
Yeah.
time.
Huge.
Is this your
financial
first
risk.
design, right?
This is my first design.
Right on.
So when I built this, it was a hobby game.
Right.
And the Game Crafter, I didn't know on-demand board
Mhm.
game publishing existed.
Sure.
I thought that's a cool idea because you can do anything you want. And so no, this game was specifically developed for the Game Crafter. I had some homemade versions
Right.
where things were different. I had more miniatures involved at that point.
Speaking of more miniatures involved, really quick on the same thing. So why Game Crafter over Kickstarter and stuff that's so popular?
Well, see, because technically Kickstarter isn't a publisher;
Sure.
they're
Right.
just a crowdsourcing platform.
Right.
To
It's
help
allowing you
get-
to generate money to pay for you to publish
to
your
go
game.
and find a publisher. And for a starting board gamer, if you're not sure, am I doing this for a hobby or am I doing this to
Sure.
develop?
Right.
To me, a Kickstarter doesn't make much sense because if I'm only ever going to make one copy, then why would I Kickstart it?
Right.
Now, in going through this development process, I probably would like to pursue a Kickstarter version of this at some point.
Cool.
I've had
Okay.
some
I
thoughts
would
on that.
I would enjoy that
Yeah,
quite
I've
a
had
bit.
some thoughts on that. And a lot of people on the Game Crafter use Kickstarter to fund, and then you do their publishing and fulfillment
Mhm.
through the Game Crafter.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So they use them
Together.
Sure.
In
together.
tandem.
Sure.
in
Well,
tandem.
and it's one thing to like pitch a small like card game to a
Yeah.
publisher
Right.
versus because that's cheap, that's low risk. This has
Exactly.
a lot of components.
Yep.
It's got a lot of moving pieces, so it's very daunting to try to get this.
Yeah, this
Unless
is-
you're like Eric Lang,
Right.
and you're like, hey, I got an idea for a game.
I am like Eric Lang. So.
Because you're both Canadian and black, right?
Hey,
Cool. Just checking.
and
Wow.
Tim asked me this earlier. My next game will not be this complex.
There you go. Time to relax.
That's all right,
Way
man.
That's
too
right.
much work involved
Yeah.
here.
That's all right. So, a question from the Peanut Gallery:
Yeah.
Have you considered forming your own LLC or corporation?
That's on the radar.
I mean, well, we have McDoffer Games, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a trademark. That's done. There's not
Almost
really
there.
anything. You have to
Yeah.
file for a trademark just by having it. You have it. But yeah, I've thought about that. I don't know how my wife feels about that.
I get that a lot. Except
And
I
it's
do know how
just-
my wife feels about
It's
it.
just available on Game
Yeah.
Crafter
So
right now.
next question was, where is this available? It is available right now on the Game Crafter
Right.
for $66.99 as a one-off purchase.
And there's a ton of extra things.
Oh, does that
you
does
can-
that come with the expansion you were talking about?
No.
Okay.
So the base game is basically what you see here.
Mhm.
There is an expansion that gives you 14 additional factions, and about
It's such a drastic jump. I love it.
16 wonder buildings.
Wow.
So four per era.
And that's
Nice.
not mentioning the additional maps you can buy.
Yeah.
as
So
well,
I
right?
also have standalone map packs for Magnus
Okay.
Rex that are real world cardboard, fold out 6-fold maps. Basically the same finished size as this.
Okay.
About 587 hexes. I've counted them
Wow.
on the map. So it's basically the same game. The only difference is everything is revealed at the start of the game. There's no flipping because
Okay.
everything
It's
is
the-
on the map.
Because if you're playing in like the continental United States, right, or like
Yeah.
North America
Yeah,
or,
so
or
there-
Europe,
there are-
Europe. Yeah.
There are real world maps for Europe,
Mhm.
North America, the Americas, North and South.
nice.
the Far East, like Asia, Japan, India. I just finished one for Africa about 4 months ago.
It looks so good.
And yeah, so I've got those 4 map packs on the docket for future maps.
Okay.
Is a world map, so you can play as any faction. Because those additional 14 that I talked about are, there's one for America, Aztecs, Incas, China, Japan.
Right.
Your classic
Classic
civilization
ones,
factions.
Sure.
The 4 starting factions are based just in Europe. So the Europe map is probably going to allow you to play the most factions right now. I think it's an 8 faction.
Oh wow.
Okay.
8 spaces. So again, I've got an expansion, which is about $20 on the Game Crafter. So once you shovel out for the base game, everything else after that's
It's a lot cheaper.
Is fairly cheaper. The maps are a little pricey, about $45.99 right now.
Yeah, just because the thicker tiles and stuff.
Thicker tiles, yeah, and the production values.
Right.
Right.
These tiles are really nice. Like
yeah.
there's no warpage. There's
No,
no.
Yeah,
I-
these tiles are
My
really
first prototype
really sweet.
of these tiles was not a cardboard tile; it was a cardstock tile.
Oh, okay.
For again, for cost savings.
Sure. And then you said, worth it.
Yeah, it's very much worth it. I've played a couple versions with the cardboard tiles, and they're just so much cleaner, easier to flip. You don't have tiles jumping up over each other like that because
They got edges to
they
them.
got edged. Yeah. So this is basically the base version. There was a question earlier about Kickstarter. Game Crafter does have a crowdfunding option called crowd sales, where they'll put a game on sale for a set number of days. Usually, I think you can actually say 7 or 14 days. I don't think I've seen one more than 14.
Okay.
And during that sale, obviously you want to market it, get people out there. At the end of the sale, any purchases that have been made are all bulked together, and you basically get a group.
Because you're getting it,
group
you're basically potentially getting like a bigger print run.
Right.
Exactly.
So because you're printing more copies, it lowers the cost.
Okay.
They only allow you to do 1 crowd sale per game ever.
Oh.
So be timely.
Yeah.
Don't just willy-nilly, right?
So actually with this Magnus Rex, I've had it for sale on the Game Crafter for about a year and a few months. Had a few sales, one-off sales, but I am going to be running a crowd sale later in November.
And we will be talking about that when that's going on.
Yeah.
Because this game's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks super neat.
Dan
I'm
and I had
excited
a
to
lot of
actually play
fun playing on Tabletop Simulator, and I do, like, I'm fine on TTS, but, like, for me,
I
like,
prefer the
playing and
bits.
learning board games,
Yeah.
like, I like having it in front of me. I like being able to fiddle with it. I just learn the rules. I just learn better, like, hands-on.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I was excited when you were like, hey, I got some copies. I'm going to come in. And I'm like, sweet. Like, let's do this. Like, I can't wait to see it. Dan and I have been talking about it for a while, especially after we had gotten to play it on tabletop with you. So, yes, we are looking forward to that.
So I have an interesting question based
is it
on
an interesting question, though?
based on, to me it is.
Okay.
Based on a recent thing that I had to deal with is the real world maps like Europe, right, would obviously have these spawning locations realistic.
Yes, they are historical starting points.
So my question is, going off something I had recently in the Game of Thrones board game, if you heard of that, that game is almost so accurate that it is unbalanced.
Right.
You know, because they want to be so accurate to the design of the map. So was it difficult to... Did you feel like at first it was not balanced just because of where the starting locations
Germany
were?
and Spain, like too close to each
more
other.
resources.
I would say that as far as resources, the real world maps are fairly balanced. Like there's not one faction that's going to have more resources than the other.
Okay.
But yeah, just based on where they started on the board, there could be some factions that are a little unbalanced. For example, on the Europe map, Russia starts way up in the upper right-hand corner. And there's not a lot around them.
Okay.
So they're going to have that advantage of not a lot of close neighbors at the start. That could be a disadvantage too.
Sure, I was going to say, and it's one of those things you just go into it knowing it's historically accurate, and you almost get to like live out like, okay, well, how did Russia do this? You know, and like, you know, like I like it. You just have to have that in the back of your mind of like, if someone's playing Russia, they have this advantage / disadvantage.
Yes.
Like Axis and allies.
Sure.
The real world maps are not, from that standpoint, not designed to be balanced because just of the geography.
Sure.
One of the hardest challenges with the real world maps, because there's more than 4 factions on the map potentially. There's like 8 starting locations on the Europe map. It was a really hard design. It was really hard designing, picking out these starred hexes
because they have to have 6.
They were equal, and so that they were equidistant more or less from all the players, so that like England didn't have a bunch of easy stars to get. So that was, from a design standpoint on the real world maps, probably the culture stars was the hardest thing to
figure out.
That makes sense.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Things you don't think about until you're like trying to make it, right? And then you're like,
oh crap.
Yeah.
And, it was that was one of the hardest things was probably just the culture stars.
Sure. That's wild. That is wild.
But I love the and we'll probably have some pictures up and stuff. But I love you look at the design. I actually talked to you a little bit about this. When you're designing the real world maps, it just seems so fun to me to try to design, okay, well, here's what Africa has to look like, but I have to make it out of these hex tiles, and I have to make it geographically make sense. Like there's more desert here and this here, and then you look at it and you're like, yeah, no, that's Africa. And that seems so fun to me.
Yeah, and the Africa map, to me, because it's the last one that I did and I'd had the most practice, to me it's the most artistic one that I've done. There's a lot of new landforms that aren't in any of the other maps that are in Africa. There's a different gradients of desert.
Okay.
So to me, it looks from a distance like a satellite overview.
Nice.
It's very, to me, that one looks very artistic, and also because it's very well centered. Some of the maps, just due to the distance and the scale, like the Americas map is kind of.
Well, it's funky, right? Because
it's
not like
angle.
It's not like it just like lines up
to get
perfectly like this,
to get
or
all the, to
like
get
this,
all
right?
North
It kind
and
of is
South
like
America on a map. You had to really kind of shift things a little bit. The Europe map looks pretty true to form. That is actually the other obstacle, though, with a world map that I'm already thinking about is when you think about how many factions are usually set in Europe, which kind of gets into cultural, sociological things. But you got Germany, France, Spain, England, Russia to a point. I have the Vikings, kind of where Norway is. So you have like 7 of the 10 factions within
a few
spaces of each other. And if you just really do Europe to the size geographically Europe is in the real world, it's impossible to do it because they wouldn't have enough. You really have to have a hex and 6 spaces around to start with.
Yeah.
So I did have to kind of blow up the size of Europe.
Sure.
I did that on the Europe. The Africa map actually has the southern half of Europe on it. So Spain, England, or Spain, Rome, and Greece.
Okay, sure.
As playable on the Africa
that makes
map.
sense, right? Just on the
but to make it playable, you really had to blow up the size of those countries. So, like Dan was saying, I'm a really big geography nerd.
Sure.
So to me, it was fun doing that, but it was a challenge to kind of you had to make it true to life, but you also had to think of in terms of gameplay.
Right.
How is this going to work as far as gameplay? So there are a few inaccuracies. Okay, there isn't actually a mountain here, but I really, because I think of mountains they're impassable terrain in this game. So you really think of mountains as like, how do I build in choke points on the map?
Exactly. It's like a balancing little technique of throwing them
and
out.
That I meant to ask this about water on the map. Do you need something to move through water?
Yes. Good.
Okay.
So
sorry, I know we're way past that, but I forgot about.
Mountains
I meant
and
to
water are impassable terrain at the start of the game.
Okay.
For 99% of the factions, there's a few that get a sailing ability at the start, but there is a sailing tech that allows you to move through water. There's also a navigation tech that allows you to cross water but not end your turn in it.
Okay, so but if only one person can get the sailing tech, does that mean over the game only one person will ever be able to cross water?
Possibly.
Okay.
So it's that sailing's in some games crucially important tech if you're going for a military win, because you could have the best military in the world. I played a simulator game a few months ago with one of my playtesters. He had tanks. He never got sailing. He was stuck. Did not win because he couldn't get to any of the other players.
Dang.
So you really have to think ahead with that. But there are a few. So there's a Magnus card that will also give you sailing.
Okay.
So there's a few exceptions, the ability to get that. There's a very late tech flight. Flight will allow you to cross all water and all mountains.
Sure.
So that's one of the very last techs in the game.
Okay.
But again, right, super powerful. So
Right.
he was
Super-
talking about the
you
the
can move,
modern
like,
era techs are really
right.
powerful.
And there's only like, I guess, 6 or 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one is navigation. Navigation is a lower version of sailing. You can cross water, but you can't end your turn in it. So
Sure.
if you have enough movement, you can
Get over land.
You can get over land. So really, in a game, there'll typically be 2 techs that will allow you to get across water.
Okay.
But again, then you just shape your strategies elsewhere.
Accordingly.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, well, I never even had a chance because I never got sailing, it's like, well, you just never realigned your thinking.
Well, yeah. If you're inflexible enough that you're always going for a military win,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you may get gypped out of sailing some game.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And you really have to strategize what 4 cards you see up for bid this turn. You don't see what's going to be up for bid the next turn. So
Right.
that's kind of a little of a blind draw. But typically, the way I play, if I see something up there or if I see none of the 4 cards there I really care about, I just won't bid, bank my tech for the next turn.
You don't need a tech just to have a tech. You want to pay for the ones that you
I
really
want.
want.
That's the way I look at it. Of
Sure.
course, I've only won this game a few times.
I mean, you did
being
design
the
it.
creator doesn't make you a good,
Good player.
It
the
makes you a
game.
good teacher. If you
That's right.
teach the game to new people
So
and they win,
yeah.
you're a
makes
good
you a good
teacher.
So don't
right?
Right.
don't
That's right.
take my advice.
That's why
on
I always teach
strategies.
games.
Don't use my strategy because it's terrible strategy.
That's awesome. I guess before we get too much further, let's hear about the Magnus cards real
Sure.
quick.
So I'm gonna
So I
have
don't want to get off.
Dan find those.
Onto
They should say Magnus
things
something
not in
on
here.
them because we've
Mhm.
not talked about them. There's just a few things we've not talked about.
Here's one.
Yeah. So there's 4 types of Magnuses. There's everything in this game is 4. Actually, this is all of them.
Oh, okay.
So there's 4 Magnus Physicuses. Physicus. Everything is Latin in the game. If you
Right.
guys haven't noticed.
Because Latin is cool.
Because Latin is cool. There's Magnus Publicanus, there's Magnus Imperators, and there's Magnus Artifexes. And each Magnus type
sorry.
is basically going back to one of those resource types, one of those victory conditions. Imperators are going to be your military cards. Artifexes are your culture cards. Yeah, there's a sample of an Imperator.
Yeah, that's Sun Tzu.
Yeah, Sun Tzu, very powerful card.
Wow, Christopher Columbus is crazy.
Yeah, Columbus is a fun card to play with. Columbus is a publicanist. So publicanuses are kind of your great merchants or economists.
Marco Polo. Yeah.
Marco Polo's in there.
Makes sense.
Magnus Physicus is your great scientist.
Okay.
And the way that you earn those, there's really 2 ways. On your focus card, at the far right, there's Magnus Achievements. And they're just kind of things. You're going to do them in the game anyway. I just
Okay.
thought, let's just reward players for doing them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first person to win 4 battles gets a Magnus Imperator.
Okay.
The first person to get 2 corners of the world gets a Magnus Artifacts. First person to win 4 tech bids gets a Physicus, and the first person to do 2 trade missions gets a Publicanus.
Okay.
And then, so if somebody gets Imperator, there's nobody else is going to get one
through the achievements.
through the achievements. So there's other ways.
There's one other way.
Okay.
Okay.
There is, and we actually redesigned this, but there was originally 1 tech card. It was philosophy that allowed you to pay 4 random resources and get a random Magnus from the deck that you wished.
Okay.
So you could earn an Imperator, any 4 of those with that 1 tech. So it was way overpowered because philosophy you could clean that deck out if you had enough resources.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
And you essentially just shuffle them.
Yeah,
down.
within each 4 with the category of 4.
Right,
Yeah, they're just
right.
shuffled.
I'm so excited there's a Beatles one.
There is a Beatles one.
I mean, I'm a Beatles fan.
I was hoping
so
there was Bill Nye.
Listen, buddy.
He needs more credit.
This is culture. Bill
we
Nye.
have Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
You're gonna put
I knew Albert Einstein was going to be in there, and then
Well,
my soul was
if
like,
you're
I
gonna
kind of want Bill
Bill
Nye.
Nye, I was always a Beekman's World guy, so I went
Oh.
Beekman's World over Bill Nye.
Science.
No,
rules.
I really like how you cover a lot of different aspects
I
of-
mean the Magnuses are just kind of in there as a bonus.
Sure.
They're kind of rewarding just the normal things people do in a game, in any kind of civilization game, exploring, researching, building things. So I thought, let's give people a reward for doing that. So you asked how else can you earn them. There's 4 special tax. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they are, but there's 4.
There's 4 of them.
There's
four
4
in
of
there.
them.
Yep.
that if you earn, I believe animal husbandry might be one of them. Animal husbandry gives you the ability to buy.
2 units of the same class.
No,
and
it's not
era.
animal. It's
Nope.
not animal husbandry.
Wrong.
Stop talking.
Mysticism is one. Mysticism, if you have the mysticism card, you can pay 4 random ones or 4 random resources and earn a artifacts.
Okay.
So it's basically tied. You know, there's one card you can pay 4 and get a random culture guy. There's one you can buy a random imperator. So it's everyone is going to have a chance because not everyone's going to get those 4 same cards.
Sure.
So the Magnuses are kind of there as a special one-time bonus card. They work just like tech cards. You activate them when you want to use them.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the Magnuses. Let's see. So yeah, once someone earns them through an achievement, then you kind of no one else is going to earn that one. So we usually use a dry erase marker just to. These are all dry erase.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just put a tip on there, so it's not a lot of components. It's all use these many times, and it won't.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Shouldn't rub off the finish.
Nice.
So that's the Magnuses. The only other thing we haven't talked about on the map is around your starting city, just around your first city. There's these white homeland icons, and there's 16 of them. Or I'm sorry, there's 20 of them, by the way. Once you flip over all of your cards, you'll see that. And that's another kind of a bonus for just doing things you're going to do anyway in the game. And that's growing your borders. So through play testing and playing for a culture victory, we really realized that players were going to build their borders like this. They were just going to beeline straight to those squares, to those stars.
Sure.
And the end result is that you get a really funky looking country.
Borders. Yeah.
That's
not gerrymandered all the heck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's topical. Yeah, very gerrymandered. So we thought, well, that doesn't really look nice. It's not thematic for no one would have their borders like that, except in some states. So what we did was added these homeland squares on, and if a player fills in all of their homeland with their culture cubes, you get an extra city tile for your capital. So you basically, and there's actually another ability that later on construction gives you the ability to do this. Yeah, I'll just use this one. So I would, Tim would get to add another tile to his city like this, and he would automatically get, if he doesn't already have those cubes, he would get to get the outlying hexes automatically, and also it gives him so he gets twice as many resources from his city center, and he also gets 2 more places to build buildings.
Okay.
Because usually, especially in the mid to late game, you start running out of spaces to put things. Because you can only build buildings in your city outskirts, which are the adjoining hexes to your city.
Okay.
So that's kind of the homeland mechanism. Again, just really to encourage players to build a logical,
normal-looking,
a normal-looking country. Anything else as far as gameplay?
I don't think so, but
I'm good.
Dan and I have had the pleasure of playing this a little bit before. I mean, we played only really early era, a handful of turns just to kind of get a
feel,
to get a taste. But no, I mean, honestly, this is impressive just from the standpoint of you designed this whole game. One guy sits down, you knew what you wanted, you knew what kind of game you wanted because of the other games you liked, and you wanted to just make. I mean, for lack of a better, right? You decided I'm going to make a game I want to play.
Exactly.
And you were content if you were the only guy that just plays this with your buddies and you only had one ever.
Right. As a game designer, I think if you make a game that you don't like playing.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Sure. But I mean, I find it impressive that you start off making a game that you want to see, right? Because you're playing these other games and they're coming really close, but they're not quite getting
what you're looking for. Yep.
And so you just sit down and you go, boom. So here's the question then. Did you achieve your goal?
I think so.
Okay.
I really do, because what I wanted, again, was an epic game. A game that you get to tell a story of your civilization. And like I've told Tim, I have not had the best success in playing this game and winning because I'm not like a min-maxer. I'm not thinking in those terms all the time. I have fun playing this just on the face of, okay, hey, I got to build 6 temples this game, or I was Greece and I had the most culture in the game, or I was England and I did all this trading. It just telling the story, kind of role playing out.
It's fun to have a civilization simulator.
Yeah. And I kind of like the aspect of like where you see where your borders are, right? And you can potentially see like how you've grown out. Like, well, I started right here, then I grew out this way, and you might even see where you butt into other civs, and things like that. And that kind of, it's like when you ever watch like a high speed thing where you see like how maps fluctuate and like different, you know what I mean?
Time lapse
stuff, and you could see how different people they were these and now they're this and this and this and then you could really just kind of watch that through a game, like playing a game of this.
For a lot of my marketing, that's exactly what I do. I'll take a couple gameplay photos, early game, just a little small corner of the world, and at the end of the game, taking up the whole map.
Right. And
There's
again,
a real sense of achievement in that.
Just for a 2-player game, this is a big map.
It is. It's a lot of map.
It's a big map.
Yep.
And like for me, that's not a bad thing. Like Bob and I play games with sprawling boards, and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, this just continues to, like,
I like it.
I wish I had time right now to be like, okay, guys, we're done filming. This was awesome.
Now we're gonna play.
And with that said, the map is huge, but what's not on the map is actually very minimal.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And you can. It's not too hard to manage.
This little thing.
Ever considered an automaton?
Yes.
Like a single player
I don't
mode?
know how I would do that, but if anyone has any ideas, let me know.
Oh, just for like an AI player?
I've read some of the Scythe automata version. I have no idea how to.
You need to become friends with Richard Lanius because he does a lot of AI design for games. And then I forget who's the guy. Well, there's the person who does them all for the Stonemaier games. It's like one group, isn't it? That does like all the Stonemaier
Automas,
And then Talon Strike Studios, they do. Yep. They've got a guy that comes in and does a lot of their
Brian
stuff. But yeah, I'm barely smart enough to play games. I couldn't imagine trying to design an AI to play against.
I'll get you my Spark notes.
Some thoughts, but maybe. See.
Yeah,
if you could seriously, if you have some ideas on how you can generate, a believable looking AI that's not just randomized.
Right.
That's the real challenge.
Yeah. I think the trick would be in having either like a deck of cards that's having like if they're closer to this victory condition, do this type of thing. So that way they're at least heading towards the most available victory.
Based on maybe what
kind of resources they have,
most of.
Not just randomly lashing out at
correct, because that's
things.
not going to let them lead to a victory. But if they're like, if you have so many sciences, bid for this tech or this and that.
Sure.
So base game, it's 2 to 4.
2 to 4 base game. Any of the modular maps will allow up to 6.
Okay.
So this is another on the drawing board map. This is kind of like the over the top crazy version.
Mars.
Close. I have I'm working on a 6-player modular version of this.
Oh wow.
So it would not. So this version you have 16 tiles per player. So this would be 16 tiles per player times 6.
Wow.
Plus some middle tiles.
Right.
I think I looked at it. My version would have 102 map tiles. This is 64.
I love
it. So same idea. Everything's modular and everything is going to link up. But just crazy overkill.
Yeah.
Someone who wants to play a 4-hour game.
Oh, look at that beautiful map.
Well, I mean, conventions, man, that's a great time to do it. Like they do like the mega civs. I don't know if you ever participated in a mega civ or not.
No, I haven't. But yeah, that's
huge.
what this would be. And you could even play a 2-player version on that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing, the mega civ. That's like when you said that you were designing a whole world map, I was like, why? I just want to take, because you have an American map and an African map, I just want to put them all together and make like this giant map. And it's like, hey guys, I'll see you next month.
To a point. But yeah, if you have like a gym, you could probably set that up in. That's the amount of space.
That'd be so awesome.
Right next to the full-size Catan that they have at like Gen Con or whatever. I just wanted to turn all the tiles over so you could kind of see
the whole board.
how pretty.
So pretty, man.
It looks.
I really like those tiles.
Really vibrant. So Bob, put you on the spot as our resident colorblind expert.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask
That's
about
a
that.
good question.
How's this stuff look for you?
Yeah, I don't see any issues at all.
Okay.
Okay.
'cause that's a
Yeah.
really
I mean-
good.
I mean, like
didn't consider
this
that.
red blends with that green a little bit, but that yellow pops it so you draws your eye. Because like if that yellow wasn't there, I would have a hard time seeing that star.
Those are the other
Right.
player colors.
But that yellow makes it pop out. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's one of these things. I can see those yellow numbers. So
Okay.
that's good.
Yeah.
And then
Player colors: white,
Player-
red.
Yeah, those
Green,
red greens
blue.
aren't bad. Blue, what's the other one? White.
white, yeah,
White.
white's
yeah,
easier.
white,
Yeah.
great choice for Bob.
Yeah.
He approves.
White and yellow. Those are the two colors I usually
Yeah,
stick
I
with.
wouldn't definitely mix white and yellow.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to do a six, I do need to actually develop a 6-player expansion because, like I
Mhm.
mentioned, I don't have a specific game pack on the Game Crafter to go
Mhm.
buy those 5th and 6th-player components.
Okay.
It'd be cheap,
Yeah.
$10 or less.
Sure.
Yellow,
get
and,
the
yellow
cubes.
and black.
Yeah, probably probably black and another color. Yellow would be fine.
Yeah, yellow. Yeah,
Black
I mean
would
that would
definitely
stand
be
out.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's I've thought a lot about where I can take this down the road. You know,
Mhm.
expansions, content is the big thing that I
Right.
thought of.
Yeah.
And a lot of the content was really developed before I even started working with the Game Crafter.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do real world maps. I like the modular map too. So kind of both were competing. I
Sure.
wanted to do, like unique buildings like World Wonders. Definitely wanted to do more factions,
Mhm.
but just all that stuff, you just can't release it in one game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is already ambitious,
Right.
and
It's
then
a
you
big
add,
bite.
Right. No, but I mean, it works though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We're gonna play it and we'll do like a review, like
Okay.
a rundown review,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll
Yeah.
have the like all of our official thoughts and everything
Right.
out there. But I mean, just what little I have played of it, because I played a few rounds of it.
Mm-hmm.
In your explanation, like it all works. Like it's. I mean, clearly you've played the hell out of this thing and really
Yes.
worked out a lot of
Yeah,
kinks and
we've,
stuff.
We've redesigned it. I really don't call my playtesters. They're game breakers.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have one guy in particular. He is always looking to break the game.
I hear you. I might know
Always.
him.
You could
It
be
is
the
fun.
next one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like doing that also. Like I mean, I remember the old that Civ that you were talking about, the Greece like tech victories. You can't do anything about it. They just runaway leader, and it's ridiculous. So we house rule that faction out
Right.
just because they're so we broke it. So
Yeah. I don't think that there's any factions that are wildly overbalanced.
hmm
Only because I've both played as a faction and then
played
Right.
against.
played against
Uh-huh.
and different results. So
Yeah.
Sure.
it really does. It just comes down to how you take advantage of,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What's
of each
available
faction.
It's pretty interesting because not only is there asymmetry
here?
here, really you're going to get asymmetrical play just from where you start and
Right.
capitalizing your resources,
Even
your
if all
surroundings.
the
and-
factions were the same at the start, just by the bidding
By the tax.
process, you would end up
Mhm.
with a
Oh, yeah,
completely
that's true too,
asymmetrical
right? You're-
faction. Yeah,
because it's not like I'm going to have mysticism and you're going to have mysticism, and it's
Right,
just like
you're the
who
only
uses
one.
it better.
Exactly,
You know,
it's
it's like
who-
no, really.
yeah. It really comes down to, okay, these are the cards that are dealt me,
Mm-hmm.
and how am I going to use them
Sure.
Yeah.
to build my civilization?
Mm-hmm.
Rarely do you always win that tech victory every time. So you
Right.
you may not always get the card you want, but then you have to figure out, how can I use this now that I have it?
Right.
Or you
Cool.
just
I'm
play with
excited to
people
check
you
it
can
out.
manipulate easily.
Yeah. Right. like
My
no, you don't want that.
8-year-old. Like, that's terrible.
That's when Tim wins all of his games. You look at his BGG like win record, and it's like, man, look at all those wins Tim has.
No,
he plays
really,
against his
really
8-year-old.
sad. Really sad. She beats me most of the time.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
I think you guys would really enjoy this game. The
Mhm.
events add a lot of player interaction,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of gray areas. Like there's a lot of events that give you the player that drew the card the choice of like one in particular is Black Death in the medieval era.
Nice.
You can remove 5 units from any faction on the board,
Mm-hmm.
including yourself, up to 5, and that person gets a science resource for every unit that comes off.
That's awesome.
That is
so
cool.
sometimes I'm giving it to you.
Right.
Sometimes I'm giving it to myself.
Right.
So it's kind of really
That's really
gray
neat.
on where
is
you
cool.
where you put it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's a lot of votes taken. Like there's one, the classic one is Peace of Rome in the medieval. Everyone takes a vote as to who the most aggressive player is. That's word for word on the card. Doesn't tell you. How do I figure that out? So who do you
Yeah.
Who do you
think-
think it is?
yeah.
in the context of this game?
That's
who's the
Bob.
most
It's
aggressive? Yeah, it's usually the same person every
Yeah.
game.
Right.
But that's the kind of interaction I wanted to build in there.
Sure.
There's a few other votes later on in the game.
Who's the biggest jerk, Tim?
Probably.
Yeah.
No, I
Cool.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I already knew like I was in the bag, right? Like I saw this and talked to you a little bit about at Protospiel about it because you had a bunch of stuff out, and I was just like it's so eye grabbing, right?
Right.
It's massive
Yeah.
map, and then we were lucky. You reached out to us and was like, "Hey, would you guys be interested?" And it's like, "Yep." Like, don't even say anything else. We're interested. And then playing it. Dan and I had an awesome time playing it with you in one of your game breakers, and then we were both like, Bob. Bob is the guy that really will like sink his teeth in and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really look forward to reviewing this because this is clearly like a labor of love from you, and it deserves to have some eyes on it and to be talked about. So,
well, I really appreciate you guys doing this. What you guys do for the game community, locally.
We try. People Game
It's
Society.
been a hard year so far. But
I can tell, just sitting here today, you guys are great friends outside of this
Oh,
and
yeah.
on tape.
yeah.
I'm a good actor.
Yes, right. Not really.
These guys, they are gamers. That's
Yeah.
all they're
That's
they're
it,
culture
man.
geeks.
Yep.
I
We-
just really met them like I said, I met Tim briefly at Protospiel in
Right.
February in South Bend. And played online with them a couple weeks ago.
And we've
But-
messaged back and forth a little bit, but like you, right? I mean, we do this. This is a labor of love. Like just the show
Yeah.
is a labor of love for us. We do it because we love the hobby. We love being a part of the hobby and just interacting
I
with
think
everybody.
I got the idea, broached with you with this when you had Rob Kerr on.
Oh, Rob Kerr,
a
yep.
few months ago, because I met him at Protospiel, and if he's watching, he really needs to work on that farm game.
So they're close.
Yeah, it's close.
Awesome.
They're real close.
Awesome.
And just a little humble brag here. My daughter got to name that farm game.
What did we go with?
Barnyard Grab.
Barnyard. Makes sense. Because I got home from Protospiel that day. I said, well, you won't. Well, my wife does not like this game.
Oh,
by the way.
sure.
Right.
My wife would never would
But-
not like this game.
But she likes party games. And I said, hey, I saw this game you would like to play because it's fast and
yeah,
it
it's
involves animals and things and
kind of frantic and fun.
And I told Bob, I said, if you get this on the Game Crafter tomorrow, I'm ordering it.
Yeah, well, I think we were sitting
you
at the same
Yeah,
table.
you
My
were.
wife.
Yep.
I think we were all sat and got in on the game that same couple of rounds.
And I
of
do
the
not
game.
like frantic games like that.
Oh, really?
No, I hate them. But I like that one.
That's a testimony to like
That
how
is.
fun that is.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that's it for us, right? Like if we can get in with you guys and help you guys out, right? And we get to play your games. We get to play these awesome games that nobody's seen.
Yeah.
Like I get excited about that, right?
Right.
Like, oh, hey guys, like you think that's really good. Wait, check
Hey,
this out.
You haven't heard of Magnus Rex? Let me show you.
We can put on our little hipster hat.
That's
and be
right,
like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yours is already on.
Oh, whoops. But no, man, like when we see games like this from not only like local designers, but it's cool when it's local designers. But when
Yeah.
we see games like this and these are your first games and you just see how much effort and blood, sweat, and tears is put into it, it's really exciting, especially when they're good games and they're
Right.
fun games. Because I'm sure for you, like us, it's really easy to talk about things you're excited about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're
Right.
passionate about. And so again, like I know I'm kind of gushing because I already, like I want to play one of these all the way through,
Yeah.
but I already know kind of how I feel because sometimes you sit down, you play a game, and like 3 turns in, you're like, I love this game. And now there's sometimes where you get to the end and be like, I don't know what happened, but it turned out horribly, and I hate this game now.
Yeah.
But I mean, not that you would ever see it coming. I would be surprised if that happened because the way that things are balanced and geared, and also the way that the games would play differently so many times, that even if you just have, because some of my favorite games, I have had horrible outings, and it's like,
absolutely.
it's like, ugh.
Absolutely.
But you know that when you sit down at the table again, it's going to be a different experience,
Right.
even if you're playing with the same people, just because of the way this stuff's
Right,
going to get
right.
changed up, the way the texts are going to come out, the way the events are going to come out. So, I don't know. I'm excited to review it.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Yeah.
So Bob,
Yes.
you came into this pretty blind, other than
Yep.
just Dan and I going, "You'll love
Yep.
this game."
Yeah, I saw it on the table at Protospiel,
Right.
but I was playtesting other things and
Sure.
yeah, it never lined up.
Sure. And you and I and Dan also really like we were kind of like some of the organizers behind it. So
Right.
we were kind
Yeah,
of busy
working. Yeah.
working it and just engaging and
Sure.
everything like that. So if we just said, "Hey man, like Magnus Rex,
Mm-hmm.
this is what it is." I mean, you're in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Just check.
sitting down to check this game out.
Yeah, because there's some where you're like, I don't know, you'd have to convince me.
Yeah.
Or like when I sat down to this, I wasn't really
Like,
sure.
okay, sure, I'll see. But yeah, no, I want to play.
Yeah, right on.
Definitely a niche for this game out there.
Mhm.
Like I said, when I was developing it and I was looking at the games that are out there on the market, there wasn't a game that really simulated playing a Civilization game on the computer where you have multiple victory conditions, where it's playable and scalable for 2 to 4 players.
Sure.
And really, maybe it's a negative, but some people like a game to be over in 45 minutes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And my experience with the Civilization games was that's kind of how I felt like the Sid Meier's version from 2010. The game was over about the time I was really getting into it.
Going.
Sure.
This one you can play, and it can be drawn out, but a lot of that does come from analysis. But if you get 4 quick players who go through the turns quickly, you can play this in an hour and a half.
Sure. And still get like the full
Still
experience.
get the full experience, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that there's a really good balance, right? Because there are some epic games and they will take hours and hours and hours. And I'm fine with that if I sit down and I know
Having fun doing it.
I'm going to say I'm playing this today and I know it's going to take most of the day. But I also, there's times where it's like, man, this game's only supposed to take an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And then you're there 4 hours and you're like, what the heck happened? Like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
What usually happens with this is the mid game will tend to draw out, and I think some people will play it and expect, well, I should be done by now. And you'll get to the modern era, and then the game will resolve itself within a turn.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Those end game techs and some of the Magnuses too, and especially in the expansion with some of the wonders, really powerful abilities that will end the game very quickly once you get to that point. It's not a 4-hour game. It's probably a 2-hour game, I would say.
Sure. That's ideal for me to get
that's
a really
great
good
time frame.
a really good Civ game. If you can get a really, really good crunchy Civ game in 2 hours, like that's pretty ideal.
Yeah.
Like, cause what is it? History of the World.
Yeah,
That's
like
a-
5 hours.
I've
or
thought
That's
so.
a great-
that looks really cool. And
It's
it's fun.
It's
I
a
like it.
really
Yeah.
good, really good, really crunchy, really deep game. And again, depending on who you're playing with, and we played a learning game, but man, it was kind of most
It was
of
a
the
very
day.
large learning game. Yes.
Had a high player count.
At a high player
As
count.
you saw with this game, there is a little bit of setup involved.
Sure.
So budget that into the.
The time.
Yeah, but
the
I think that you can delegate a little bit, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
grab
Yep.
You get
these,
these, put
set
these
these
up,
up over
put
here.
these up.
You do these,
Yeah.
and you
can
can really,
count to 16?
yeah.
Get at it.
Why are you asking me? You know I can. But yeah, I think that's fair, right? You've got a lot of moving pieces and everything, but if you don't like games that have that, you probably weren't interested in this anyways.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I think people that do want to kind of experience a Civ game, you know
what
you're
you're
getting
getting
into.
into.
Jinx.
Oh, that was
But,
cute.
It's almost like we rehearsed it. But yeah, man, I thank you for coming on and
Yeah,
bringing
Yes,
No,
us,
like I
'cause
said,
yeah, it's
thank
great.
Really-
you guys
really
for agreeing
excited.
to have me on here. Just meeting me once, in February, and then the world changing.
Right.
But from a playtesting standpoint, the last couple months were great.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
A lot of online
Stuck in
play.
playing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now I got one last question,
Sure.
then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
Because that made me think of something. Have you just given this game to somebody and you're not standing there, and you're like, okay, you guys
Learn
You
how to
Learn the
play.
game.
learn the game, and I'm not even going to be here, like,
Right.
and just play it. Or
Uh,
have you always kind of been around?
I tend to have been around.
Okay.
That's I have. So on the Game Crafter, they have a few testing modes.
Okay.
They have what they call it, artwork test,
Okay.
where they'll just randomly assign artwork to other users and they'll grade your artwork. So it's graded out at 85%. 2 years ago, I haven't really gone back to another test since then.
Okay.
So I've added a lot of artwork to it since then. And then there's also a sanity check for your rules,
That's funny.
and they get very professional. Basically professional. If you guys are familiar with Ken Franklin with I think Calliope Games,
Okay. Yeah.
he did a sanity test for this
Oh.
2 years ago when it was in its early stages.
Nice. And you know we love to complain about rule books.
Yeah, so I've had it sanity checked twice on the Game Crafter. Recently, just about 2 months ago, and both times I've had some feedback and some slight changes to the rules. The rules could still probably be simplified a little bit.
Sure.
It is very progressional. What a turn is. Talks about movement. Talks about combat. I could probably move things around within the rules to make them a little clearer. But my wife has had a lot of editing feedback.
Okay.
All my playtester guys have gave me feedback on rules. But as a designer, especially first-time designer, number one hardest thing to do is writing the rules.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I cannot.
Don't
Especially when
worry,
there's
you
people
will-
like us looking to tear them apart. Like,
Well,
why
and
is
I was
it-
gonna say, you'll hear from
when
Bob.
it's another thing, right? When you once it's out of your hands, right? Like if you're playing
Yeah.
this game, you've made your own copy. You're playing with your buddies. You're playing with your friends, your group, your game group. Maybe you're going to like a meetup and you're playing it with some people you don't know and you're teaching it. But once it's like out of your hands,
Right.
and you out of your sphere of influence,
Right.
it's like, man, anything can
I
happen.
don't
That would be so
have-
nerve wracking.
Yeah, it would be. And on Tabletop Simulator, I actually have about 50 or 60 followers for this.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I have no idea who they are.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So I assume that they've played the game
Right.
on tabletop. And that I have a full set of rules printed on there, so they should have everything they need to play the game without me being there. But yeah, as for me, my personality type, I do want to guide people through it.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
As the owner of it, I have to take my hands off sometimes.
Right.
Sure.
And let people figure out for themselves. The play testers again that I've had have come up with some really they come at it from a different angle than I do.
Right. Right.
So it really does help to get more eyes on it.
Sure.
Yeah, well, don't worry. We will be messaging you if we've got rules questions.
I will be.
I would rather play it right and be able to review it like, oh, we played it right.
Yep.
We hated it. No, just kidding.
Oh boy.
Wow, so I played it wrong.
Yeah,
my
we played it
advice
wrong, you
with
dummy.
with rule questions in general, if you have questions with the rules, is I'm a real whatever's printed on the rule, take it at face value. Like
Sure.
when my friends have questions, I say, well, what does the tech card say?
Mhm.
And if it says,
We're real big on like may or must,
Right.
like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it says May, you don't have to do it.
Right. You have the option, but if it says must, then you do,
Oh, you
or
have to do
all
it.
players, or a player, like those kind of
yeah,
things.
that is
Articles.
where if the rules are meant to be read literally like that, because
Sure.
you're exactly right. Sometimes it will say a lot of the events, for instance, are you put sadness on the other player, and in some instances, the player who is the target of the sadness gets to place their own, figure out what resources they want to
Oh,
penalize.
sure.
Okay.
In another, off the top of my head, I don't remember which ones, but on another instance, the person who gives you the sadness, who drew the card,
Picks where it
picks
goes.
where it goes.
Sure.
Okay.
So it's very particular on the reading of the card itself.
Like
They
right on.
will
player
say,
chooses one.
yeah, the card will say the player targeted will choose to place the sadness,
Okay.
or the player who drew the card will place the sadness.
Right.
Those are very particular because some of them are, very really specific. Well, there's one instance I know, a tech card in Medieval called State Secret, that you have the choice of winning the next 3 tech bids without bidding. However, you
Nice.
get, I think, 5 or 6 sadness. And since you're the one drawing the
Oh.
card, you will choose where it goes,
Okay.
not anyone else. There's a lot of instances in the rules where you might have a gray area. And I just say, I'm not saying that the rule can't be clarified, but in most instances, if you just read it literally and take it at face value,
Then
it'll kinda
there it
direct
is.
you. Yeah.
I can dig it.
So the link to the Game Crafter will be in the description. Is there anything else that you have, a website or anything you'd also want linked?
I have a Facebook page for McDoffer Games. McDoffer is my quote unquote unofficial unincorporated, I guess,
Sure.
entity for
Okay.
selling this. And I can give the address for that to Tim, as
Yeah.
well as the address to the Game Crafter,
Okay.
my game page there. On the Game Crafter, I do have related links. If you just go to Magnus Rex, it'll have links to the expansion, which is called Magnus Opus,
Okay.
and some deluxe components you can order.
Ooh.
And also the real world maps that I've
Yeah,
released.
fantastic.
Nice. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Heck
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to have all of that in the description, right, Dan?
Yep.
And then eventually, once we've done our review, we will also have a link up
We'll have
there
a link.
to the review once we do that. So when you first see this, that's not going to do anything.
No,
That's
it's
going to
gonna
be
look Dan looking weird.
like Dan,
Yeah.
it will just be a dud.
Yeah.
But then, like Dan, he will one day blossom.
Yeah, I will blossom. My true potential.
Well, we're not going to wait that long.
Well-
But there will be a link up there.
Dan is the Vanna White of this.
He is the Vanna White. He
Yes.
gets to turn all the letters.
That just means you're the prettiest one.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I'm also not arguing it.
What's the name for the baldest
Danielle.
one? But anyways, you got anything else? Dan, you got anything?
No.
No.
I mean, this is awesome.
What are you putting me on the spot for?
I don't know. Bob, you got anything else you want to talk about? I'm going to show
No.
the other side of
Yeah,
this
show
real
the other
quick
side.
Yeah.
while we're.
Yeah.
We already hit all my questions
Backside
that I
of Faction
had,
Cards got some building. Another player
and I'm ready to
aid.
play.
So,
Yeah, dude.
but yeah, we are excited to play this. I'm
I
excited.
want to play.
I know.
I know.
And I got to go out of town for a week. This is
Ha
ridiculous.
ha.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, man, I think we've covered it all, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Okay, great. Well, I've been Tim.
I've been Bob.
I've been Dan.
And I've been Brian.
This has been the Board Game Rundown. This has been Magnus Rex. Please check it out. Check out the links.
Yeah.
Find it on GameCrafter.
Yeah.
Really excited to play this. And check out our review when we have it up. Thanks for watching.
I think I got it. Just in case, go over the whole thing I wasn't listening. Yeah.
Thanks for checking out the Board Game Rundown. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share our videos on social media and spread the word. We publish new content weekly, including reviews, unboxing, and Let's Plays. And as always, thanks for watching.